Hello everybody and welcome into RMR's Tuesday Night Thunder live from the World Center of Racing, Daytona International Speedway. Joining me in the booth tonight, co-host and the man who was actually in charge just the last couple weeks, Dawson Wise. Dawson, I'm happy to be back here tonight. Good to have you with us as always. Getting ready for an exciting one here tonight.
Yeah, going to be a fun one. Glad to hold it down the last couple of weeks. You missed some great racing last week especially. My goodness, what a race it was. A lot of fun to call, a lot of fun to watch. You missed a couple good ones, but glad to be back here at the World Center of Racing.
Absolutely. Well, we're getting ready to get things rolling, so let's get started with your starting grid here on the night. Michael Triscaro for PGR eSports. He is actually going to take the pole here tonight, puts down a very strong lap. To his outside is going to be Garrett Maines. Devin Ray back in third for KSR. Jeff Merck rolling off on the outside of row number 2. He will start in fourth. Tony Cox fifth. Jason Maines back in sixth. Andrew Navarro in seventh. Mark Math in eighth with Trevor Oswanoth in ninth. And Mike Davenport, another PGR eSports driver, rounding out your top 10.
Row 6, Jared Haynes in the 7, John Mullahan in the 2 from McCullough Motorsports. Row 7, David Sheets, John Mullahan's teammate, and Matthew Baker for NBG in the 5. Row 8, be Mark Von Dell, another McCullough car in the 59. Zach Range, the 043, will be 16th. William Schwindenhammer will start 17th with JR Miller for PGR to his outside, a winner this season in 18th. Row 10, another winner this season, Logan York in the 02, and PGR's Brock Westmoreland.
Starting back in 21st is going to be Christopher McCullough from McCullough Motorsports. He'll have a teammate to his outside. Ken McCullough Jr. in 22nd. Tucker McClendon in 23rd with Stephen Harper back in 24th. And rounding out the field here tonight, last man is going to be Jimmy Emos. He will be rolling off 25th in the 67 car. Looking at your race info here tonight, the big difference is, of course, the track that we're at, the World Center Racing Daytona International Speedway. Different from where we were usually at, Talladega, Atlanta as well, just a couple weeks ago. But here's the breakdown. We're in the Xfinity car, 60 laps, 40% fuel, unlimited tires, no fast repair. Fixed setups as always with a stage break on lap 30. Beautiful skies, cool weather, cool track temp, 2.5 miles of high bank, a lot of push and action. Money on the line tonight, more points on the line as we start to work our way down the stretch. Here we go. Green flag in the air. We are racing in race 6 at Daytona.
Into 3 for the first time, Garrett Maines to the outside of Michael Triscaro. He'll go to the lead, but Jeff Merck is up alongside him. He wants this one bad. Coming off turn number 4, as he's going to go for the lead with the help of Andrew Navarro, the 60. A lot of success the past week. Jeff Merck, last week's winner in this series. A lot of fun to get to watch him go to victory lane. He's looking to make it 2 for 2 tonight. But Garrett Maines, Michael Triscaro, and others very, very hungry for a win. None more hungry than Devin Ray, third on the bottom. How about the 2 cars so far?
Yeah, a lot of guys still in position to capture that first win of the season. Of course, we know that as long as you make the minimum amount of races required, 1 win and you're in. So it doesn't matter which week you decide to come out, and I think that's kind of helped keep the attendance numbers up, because really all it is, Dawson, is, you know, if you're somebody who feels like maybe you don't have a chance to run consistent every race, just get that 1 win out of the way, and it doesn't really matter after that. You know you're going to have a chance at a playoff berth. But so far here tonight, the aggression level showing strong as Garrett Maines continues to lead with a push on the outside from Jeff Merck. You saw those two tandemed up through the trial, but we always talk about it's a lot more sketchy to be pushing in these cars through the turns, but those two, a lot of chemistry, a lot of experience over the years in money racing, and of course working together. So I think they're going to be just fine pushing through the corners early as we see Garrett Maines jump to the bottom off of 2.
A lot of lane switching up front. That's what Garrett Maines did last week as well. Now, it bit him at the end of last week's race. He went up to go to the middle. They split him out and sent him to the back, and he got in a wreck about 30 seconds after he got up in the middle. So, got to be careful with those moves this week, but so far, no harm, no foul. Third lane working. Zach Range, Logan York. No surprise there that those two are up on their horse and up against the safer barrier early, and they're bringing another car along with them. Can't quite tell which car that is yet. Might be JR Miller, a new look aboard the 78. That's why it was a little bit unfamiliar. It is the former winner, JR Miller, and now Jeff Merck will jump out there. We'll be 3x3 up front for the first time.
3 wide here is pretty much equivalent to 4 wide at Talladega. It's a little bit tighter here. Oh, man, Garrett really loose in the middle. He got a push right there from Navarro, and you saw just how unsettled that got that one car, but they all bring it back together, and now it's back to who can push the hardest down the Daytona Super Stretch. Michael Triscaro still surging out in front. Him and Devin Ray working very well together. How about Tony Cox up here in the mix in the 72 machine, third on the inside. See Mark Math as well trying to get himself involved to see what he can do. Jason Maines, you mentioned J.R. Miller in a new scheme. How about Jason rocking the 12 car now? It looks like he's got a different look aboard his Chevy Camaro as well.
Top lane still working as they all got connected. Almost some contact between Navarro and Triscaro. He's talking about new looks. About the old throwback look. We're going the opposite direction for Michael Triscaro. The IROC style paint scheme aboard that True Value Chevrolet tonight. Great to see that look on Triscaro's car. Got a little bit of nostalgia there on the 34. How about Mark Math as well? The 199, the Ryko sponsored driver. He's coming to the front early. He's third on the inside. He's made his way up here, and he wants a piece of the action up front. Some new players here that we haven't seen on Tuesdays before, making their way into the mix early on lap number 5.
Yeah, there's just certain series, that you kind of have that competitive nature towards, and you look at certain series and they're going to be your best learning series if you want to get better, and this is definitely one of those for some of the new guys to the money scene, such as a Mark Math. Maybe, for example, the 199 came in here already with a pretty good base of skills at super speedways, but, man, just in the couple weeks that we've seen him, not just in RMR, but a couple other money racing series, he's learned a lot, continues to improve, and he's showcasing some of those talents here tonight as he continues to roll third on the inside. Meanwhile, up top, third lane has completely went away. They're back to 2x2 and actually single filing out a little bit towards the back. We had one dip off for just a moment. I think that was Jimmy Emos, but he is able to get it back, gathered up, and back on the racetrack. And still all 25 cars sticking with the lead pack here. 6 laps complete as it's going to be Jeff Merck now taking a peek to the outside in 4.
Yeah, the 3 wide's done. Well, other than Jeff Merck, it's done and over with. But the guys that wanted to make it work made it work. J.R. Miller, Logan York all got to the front. Zach Range as well. So all the guys that wanted to make that work made it work and got where they wanted to be. And now they're up here at the front. Now, you notice the guys that were up front, some of them have dropped out. They saw 3 wide, said, nope, I'm out of here. No fast repair tonight. I'm going to play it safe, get to the back. And this is kind of what we've seen the past 2 weeks as well. Is you see who wants to race. You see who'd rather save their car. Honestly, the smarter decision of the two, and so far, again, that split strategy up front is Andrew Navarro, the defending champ. He needs a good run tonight in the 44, sitting 21st in points. He needs it tonight, and he goes to the lead here in 3 and 4.
He certainly does, but that outside is getting ready to resurge. Jason Maines backed up to the back bumper of Logan York, and here we go. Navarro looking to control, thought about jumping out, but he thinks better of it, and that's going to cause a bit of a stack up, allows the third lane to try to get formed up again. This time it'll be 2 teammates for NVG, Jeff Merck leading, Matthew Baker pushing. And we'll see if they're able to get about even. Usually you need 3 cars, and right now it seems like, Dawson, we're starting to get a little bit of a separation of packs, and I wonder if everybody just maybe not liking what they see up front, or I shouldn't say everybody, but a lot of guys not liking what they're seeing up front, deciding to take it a little bit easy, or if more than that, it just has to do with, save some fuel. We still got a green flag pit stop here in stage number 1. Just kind of ride around, get yourself to the inside, and coast there until we get to that first stop.
Not a bad strategy. Again, no fast repair tonight. A lot of guys just want to, like I said, take it easy. Obviously, back being in Daytona, a little bit less margin for error. And obviously, with that less margin, you see how these guys are racing up front. They're all over the place and running 3x3, 2 rows deep. And you know what? If I'm one of those guys, 15th on back, I'm like, yeah, that's not worth it. I'm just going to go back here. I'm going to ride around. I'm going to relax because you're not going to get much more of a chance to do that tonight. So I'm going to go back there and do it right now and just kind of hang out and watch these guys race, and if something goes down, then I can benefit from it, and that's what those guys are thinking. But these guys up front, Garrett Maines, Andrew Navarro, Jeff Merck, Matthew Baker, Michael Triscaro, they're not just, racing to race. It's not for nothing. Stage points are on the line, and they are a major factor as to who's going to make the playoffs and be in contention for a championship, and these are the types of guys you'd expect to be running for those little points because the margin for these guys is so much smaller. How about that surge by Andrew Navarro? He and Garrett Maines may be clear here off of 4.
They do get clear, but nobody's going to move up just yet. Garrett content to stick behind the 44. I think Navarro is one of the guys who maybe, we know he's a road to pro driver. We know he's got a pro license, how good he is at any car, any track, but It seems like when we get in these Xfinity cars, he's one of those guys that just knows the car better than just about anybody else on the racetrack. And that is because, of course, he runs the Contender Series quite a bit as part of the Road to Pro program. So the 44 jumps back up. He'll take a push now from Jason Maines down the super stretch. 2x2 still. But getting back to your point, Dawson, I mean, that again has to do with the whole kind of winning you're in. I mean, that's where it roots from in the sense of if I'm a Matthew Baker, who, again, remember, he won back in the first race of the season, I almost think that you have two choices. You either say, I'm going for as many points as I can get here, maybe look for a regular season championship, or on the flip side, he can take it easy and say, I'm just going for cash spots. I don't need stage points. I'm already locked in. Looks like he's going with the first of the two choices as he'll jump up with Mert. Now Logan York takes a peek, as well as one of the McCullough Motorsports drivers. And so looks like they're going to try to get something rolling, and they will. They draw even midway through 1 and 2.
Yeah, they do, and no surprise here that these guys are coming back to the front. You saw Jeff Merck kind of lose his track position going on the top side earlier, so he's trying to come back forward. No Logan York wants to come forward. That's always his mentality. Same with Matthew Baker, and Chris McCullough says, I'll go along for the ride with you guys, but unfortunately, he's going to be on the wrong end of that as he's going to get hung out and go right back where he started, about 7 rows deep in the field. The rest of these guys got up front, but Logan York, man, he is wheeling that thing. He is back and forth, sawing on the wheel on the bumper of Garrett Maines. Garrett really pushing him along here in the Tri-Oval. It's York and Baker side by side. 9 laps to go in stage number 1.
And we just saw Jimmy Emos there as he was merging back onto the track. I believe he had an issue. So, ooh, man, Matthew Baker just gets clear. But we're going to go back and watch this real quick. Jimmy Emos had, I believe, came to the pits. Not sure what caused him to do so. But whatever the case was, when he came to the pits, no issues there. It's when he was coming out here. And watch as he's getting back up to speed. Remember, this is not Talladega. That apron is flat. And so you can't quite full gas it until you get to the straight. Tries to do so. Gets up on the banking. Car gets out of shape. He gets in the grass. He's able to save it. A good save for Jimmy Emos, but that's what cost him all that time. And ultimately has now cost him that lap. So as we go back live, the 97 not able to tag onto the back of the pack, but up front, still 2x2, only for about 3 rows now. More and more start to single file out, and Dawson, I think that we might be expecting pit stops here in just a few laps.
Yeah, we're approaching the pit stop certainly here, and it's going to come about the same time as we would expect it to be at Talladega. About lap 14-15 is when we expect these guys on pit road for the first of what should be a few green flag pit stops should this race get into a strategy-filled affair, just like last week's race became. So we'll have to wait and see. One towards the front end, actually, that's Matthew Baker, jumps up, tries to get his teammate Jeff Merck along for the ride, but nothing doing so far. And as these guys work to get into gaps here on the bottom, they'll work towards pit stops. Lap 13 on the board. Any takers this time? Nope, doesn't look like it. And as they cross lap 14, like you said, very lonesome up top because everybody now anticipating the first green flag pit stop.
And we haven't saw it just yet. Now they're going to add a 4th car back up top. Jason Maines, Matthew Baker. Ooh, man, Logan York and Jeff Mert got a little physical there into turn 1. The 0-2 just washing up the racetrack a little bit with that transition as Matthew Baker had jumped down. About the paint scheme for Matthew Baker, I'm not sure if he was running this last week. I wasn't here, but still got a Coasting Thunder sponsor. But he's also got the PGR Intimidator Super Speedway Series sponsor on the hood. And you know he'll be in that race on Thursday, which Tuesday Night Thunder I think has got to be. Oh, Logan York. Oh, man. He's trying to cut off my little promo here as the 0-2 got back into the door of the 60. Again, everybody holds it together, but I was getting ready to say, I think that Tuesday Night Thunder has got to be right there in terms of competitiveness with PGR. Not quite the same size field, but the top drivers that you see in Thursday, you see a lot of them over here on Tuesdays. And so Matthew Baker representing that. Make sure that if you're a driver watching or somebody tuning in, you're looking for good racing, you check that one out as well. 3 wide as Jeff Merck's going to fall to the back of this group. You wonder if maybe he was just not able to find a spot in line, Dawson, and decided, all right, I'll just drop back so I can. I think that's got to be what he did there.
Well, that's exactly what he did, because now he's along the bottom line right in front of Trevin Osmoroth. Was in front of Zach Range. Range now jumps out. He's going to go try to find some more real estate, find a couple more spots up here at the front. But Merck, he just wanted to find a spot in line. He found it behind J.R. Miller and in front of Trevin Osmoroth in that number 89 Chevrolet along the double yellow line.
Pit stops.
Yeah, there you go. First round of pit stops is underway. The guys towards the back. Looks like the McCullough contingent.
Oh, man, way too hot into the pits was the 27 of Stephen Harper. I saw John Mullahan with trouble as well. He spun around almost, and the 2 is able to get it back going. I think we're going to have some penalties without a doubt from this cycle, and we'll wait till they all come off the pits, or I guess I should say we'll see who does come off the pits here, as it looks like Christopher McCullough in the 94 he will make it off, as does his teammate David Sheets. John Mullihan does, I guess, so must not have got the penalty that I initially thought he did. And looks like Jared Hayes is going to be the last man to make it off as well. Stephen Harper, though, not able to get off, and that's not too much of a surprise because I'm telling you, he came flying into his box. We got to go back and watch this round of pit stops again because some of these guys, I don't know how we did make it there without a caution. That was really, really close. And again, watch this here. Go back. Actually, we got live pit stops now, so we'll go back to this in just a moment. And this group here that came in, looks like most of them got in clean. Saw Zach Range.
Yep.
With a little bit of trouble there. Not sure what happened, though.
Too hot. He was too hot coming on a pit road. Could not get the car wound down. I think it was a very late decision by the 043 and just could not get the car stopped in time. He missed pit road, booted it completely.
Yeah, he's got major rear end damage too, so clearly he hit something. We'll go back and look at all these in just a moment, but we're going to keep it live for now because we see what we missed there when we went to go to replay. J.R. Miller, Devin Ray, 55, Davenport, and a couple others here. Got to assume they're going to come in this time here on lap 17. Sure enough, they do. So as they all peel off, it'll be the final round of stops. Can they all keep it clean? Looks like getting it a little warm, but everybody does get in nice and clean. Brock Westerland, the last to come in. And so PGR eSports with a little bit of a strategy play here, mixed in with some KSR drivers. And now we're going to have to see how they fare in comparison to, well, Zach Range looks like he's limping it around, and he will bring it down this time. But more importantly, Andrew Navarro, Jason Maines, and Garrett Maines, who are currently leading the field here. And if we look at the track map, they are not going to be able to pull away from anybody. Question is, how are they going to fare with this group? Matthew Baker, Jeff Merck, and I think even David Sheets in the McCullough group and everybody else back there is still all within reach of each other's drafts that I think they're going to get back all as one pack here. Just a matter of time. Here's Devin Ray and company working off of the pits. Looks pretty smooth so far. How are they going to fare here?
Oh, man, J.R. Miller was all over the racetrack back there. I have no idea how he kept that car straight. Caught the transition, might get a penalty here. Watch for a black flag for unsafe pit exit there for the 78 of J.R. Miller.
Man, he was pushing it, trying to get everything, and he was almost on the flat where he could put the full throttle down, or put the throttle fully down, rather. Just not quite, and now back up front we go. Jason Maines, Andrew Navarro, Garrett Maines, all linked together. Trevor Osmanoff back up here as well, a couple others. This is going to be interesting, Dawson. Nobody was able to run away from each other this round of pit stops, but with how close a couple of them were, you certainly wonder if on a round of pit stops later, if a group tries a little bit of different strategy, maybe going in a little bit sooner, a little bit later, if they could potentially pull some distance from everybody else. Now that we got the pit stop out of the way, it'll be a race all the way to the finish here of stage one, which is going to give us about 11 and a half laps to go as they race down the super stretch.
That group coming from behind the leaders is coming in a hurry. They're going to have a massive run on this front group, and it's led by Baker and David Sheets. Do not be surprised if they go flying around this group, and Trevor Osmanoff's going to be the unfortunate first driver to get caught by the second group. And this is a massive run. I mean, you can see the visible difference in speed, and they immediately go to the safety barrier. 1 lap to go in stage one, and here comes that second pack led by David Sheets.
Well, I'm curious here, Dawson. I saw on the flyer it said lap 30. Is it 30 or is it 20 tonight?
It's usually 20. Let me double check, but it's usually lap 20.
Well, we'll keep it as potentially being the white flag here for now. Again, I could have read it wrong. Nonetheless, point is, up front, it is Garrett Maines and Andrew Navarro on the 44, the 12. Jason Maines on the outside, big search. Garrett's going to have to look up to block. He does now. Jason splits him. 3 wide. Trevor's going to go in the middle. He almost turns Garrett around. Still side by side as they race into turn 3. Who's going to get it here out of 4? A lot of Dyson around, but I think that middle. Oh, Brock Westmoreland's going to go around. He tries to save it out back. I think he does, but up front, they fan out to the line. Navarro and Maines are together into the wall. Caution comes out, and so that confirms that was for the stage break. What a race to the finish right there. And so, again, apologies for lap 30. We did have officially on the flyer that it said lap 30, but as per usual, lap 20 nonetheless. Man, tell you what, Dawson, Navarro and Garrett, they were beating and banging there, and they may have finished the stage towards the front, but unfortunately they're going to get some damage out of it, and there's no fast spares here tonight.
I mean, that's the risk you take, though, going for stage points. And we talked about earlier, you know, the trade-off. Do you want to go for stage points or do you want to save your race car? And man, Navarro and Garrett, I mean, they were going to finish 1-2 in the stage, or at least 2-3. Instead, now I think they finished 4th and 5th, perhaps 4th and 6th. I'm not sure exactly where all they both finish here, but they both get in the wall as well, get into each other, potentially some damage. So how costly was that for the 1 and the 44? Oh, man, was that worth it on lap 20?
Yeah, and you see Garrett gets into the outside wall and the 44. I was wondering, it almost looked like maybe Garrett wasn't trying to make a move, but he was getting pushed by Trevor Osnoth and maybe didn't have much of a choice here. So we'll back this up, go to the chopper view. That way we can also see what happened here to Brock Westmoreland, who we saw get ducked out of line. I think he saved it when he got onto the apron, but it's just Logan York's running him a little tight there. And in fact, boy, Logan's really running him pretty tight here. It looks like there's still some room, though. No issues there. Brock gets down by the yellow. Logan starts to run him even tighter, and he just kind of runs Brock out of room. I think Brock's splitter actually taps the apron. That gets him a little up out of shape, and then once he gets into the door of Logan, that sends him down below the apron. But, wow, phenomenal save by the 4. And then we go back up front and take another view of Trevor Osnoth. Was he pushing Garrett here? Yeah, he was. I think that's exactly what happened, Dawson. I think that Trevor maybe was thinking Garrett was going to jump out 3 wide. I think Garrett was kind of doing maybe what you said and was okay with just finishing 1-2 there. But unfortunately, in these cars, you can't quite slam draft the way you can in the trucks. And, boy, that could have been a lot bigger. I know there's damage for the 44 and the 1, but certainly could have been 2 destroyed race cars. Instead, though, they're going to be able to get it hammered out.
Yeah, they're going to be able to get that one hammered out. I thought that was going to be a lot bigger than it was when they got together the second time. So Navarro goes sideways, comes back up. When he goes up and gets into Garrett the second time, I thought for sure both those cars were going to go sideways right to the front of the field, and luckily they both keep it together. Garrett puts it in the wall to keep it from spinning, and we avoid a much larger incident. The big benefactor out of that one, man, Chris McCullough went and got himself a stage win right there.
Yeah, that's a big deal, too, for a guy like Chris. Still looking for that first win on the season, but stage points certainly give you a little bit more of a cushion. Now, while we do have a brief break here, before we go see if we can maybe get an interview with one of these top guys in the finish of the stage there, we saw John Mullihan get hot along with Stephen Harper into the pits. Mullihan, though, was okay. Stephen Harper did get a penalty, but this was Zach Range, who you talked about, just did not make the pits in time. And Dawson, that's kind of one of those cases there where he kind of put himself in a vulnerable spot. He tried to pit from the top lane, and as a result, he still had a car behind him that was not pitting that time. That was the 78 of J.R. Miller. Miller gets into the back of him, and that one bump just gives him all the speed he needs to unfortunately miss the pits. That's what happened there. By the way, Jeff Merck, we got reports that him and Brock Westmoreland, this was trouble for them when they made their pit stop. You see that actually ripped the back bumper of the 4 off for Brock Westmoreland. Gave Merck a little bit of damage as well on the left side door. So that certainly explains some of the separation that I would say we saw once everybody cycled out and was trying to get back together. But nonetheless, you talked about it. For Christopher McCullough, that is a huge stage win. That's going to help him tremendously here. As wish we had him in here for an interview, but doesn't look like he is currently in any of these channels. So we'll bring up a man who certainly had a pretty good view of that finish there and had quite a crazy ending to his stage, Brock Westmoreland. Let's see how he's feeling right about now. Hey, Brock, this is Austin and Dawson up in the booth. You got a copy?
Yeah, man, I got you.
Well, unfortunately, not quite the way you probably had that stage ending in your head there. You got almost spun out. It was a phenomenal save, but some issues on the pit stop overall. Kind of how's the car handling right now in the pack, and how has the game plan changed since the start of this race?
Oh, man, the car's been good. It's yeah, unfortunate there. I thought I was going to end up close to 5th there and get a stage point or 2. Just got side drafted a little aggressively there and spun and got turned and saved it, but I came back up into, I think, Trascaro pit, and I just out of control there. But nah, we'll figure it out and get to the front.
Well, speaking of getting to the front, still a long ways to go, at least one, potentially 2 pit stops. So how do you kind of balance out that aggression in your charge back to the front? Do you get it all on these restarts? Do you maybe hang back, try to work your way up towards the end, or do you slowly pick them off the whole way through?
I believe right now I'm going to hang back for a little while and see how the race plays out and go from there.
Sounds like a pretty good plan. Well, we appreciate you talking to us. Well, I would say congrats on the top 5 for the stage there, but of course we saw you get spun. I think we'll be talking to you at the end of this thing. Car looks fast. Good luck the rest of the way.
Yeah, man.
All right, and that we'll put Brock Westmoreland back down to his team, and I'll tell you what, he said he was getting side drafted a little hard, Dawson. That was certainly a nice way to put it there. I don't know if a side draft counts as physical contact, but nonetheless, Brock got it cleaned up. He's back out, ready to go. as is the front of the field. Matthew Baker will line up as your leader here. See him going below the apron. A little bit of a Warman tire trick. Christopher McCullough up on the outside. Mike Davenport's back in third. Rounding out row number 2 is going to be William Schwindenhammer. Good looking 17 machine for him. And then Ken McCullough Jr. and J.R. Miller making up row number 3.
Going to be a good stage 2. I'm excited here after what we just saw in stage 1. A lot of good racing, a lot of good clean racing. Let's specify that. These guys somehow kept it clean a couple times. We were leaning on disaster, but these guys keep it clean. And now we're ready to go for stage number 2. 1 pit stop, I believe, is still left. It might be 2. It'll be really close. Into the restart zone for the second time. Man, Chris McCullough, he was ready to go. A bit of a wonky start, and off goes Baker towards turn number 1. And this is going to really disorganize the front of the field.
It certainly is. Christopher McCullough is going to have to await a push now from William Schwindenhammer, but that's going to take a moment. That'll give Mike Davenport actually a chance here to potentially get clear of the 94 before they get off at turn number 2. And he does just that. Will he jump up, or does he stay committed to Matthew Baker? Looks like he's going to go ahead and stay tucked to the inside for now. That'll give Christopher McCullough now the momentum as they rocket down the super stretch, still getting up to speed. These guys have been hitting speeds of just short of 200 miles an hour here a couple different times tonight. As you see, they get up to just about 190, still picking up speed, though, into turn number 3. Christopher McCullough on the outside, Matthew Baker on the inside, 2x2, just about all the way back. No third lane just yet, but you got a couple big hitters, including a couple guys who got damage at the end of the stage. Navarro and Maines, I think they're going to be making their way to the front here pretty soon.
Got a ways to go to get there, though. Navarro 15th, Garrett Maines 18th at the line on the timing and scoring that time by. So some work to be done for the 44 and the 1, but no surprise that they are already starting to pick their way through the field. They're about 9 rows deep right now and trying to get their way forward, but they got a traffic jam to get through on the way there. Matthew Baker leads on the bottom with a little guy series champ behind him, Mike Davenport, the 55 for PGR. Baker starts to work lanes, and man, it checked up that middle lane because here comes J.R. Miller, and he's got help from behind from David Sheets. And again, we are racing up at the front on lap 26.
Stephen Harper, went for a little bit of a detour through the grass there on the backstretch. Got back up. Mark Vondell gave him a little room. And now 3x3 towards the middle of the pack. J.R. Miller, David Sheets trying to make something work, but they just don't seem to have the momentum to do it right now. We talked about that cool track temp at the tip of the broadcast. Right now, 77 degrees. You wonder if that's playing a little bit of havoc on any momentum that third line is trying to generate. Zach Range, though, looks like he's going to jump out. He's got to be careful here. You make any hesitations like that, Dawson, it's very easy for the guy behind you to assume that you're in a different lane. Next thing you know, that's how we get a big wreck. So Range, though, still trying to decide if he wants to stick with that middle or jump to the top. No momentum as now David Sheets starts to fade. J.R. Miller going to be soon behind him if they don't get any help. 78 almost in the door of the 44. A lot of aggression in the middle of the pack, but still pretty docile up front.
Yeah, a lot of aggression back there around where those guys are 3 wide still, but now even that's starting to calm back down. Logan York jumped out for a second. He's back in line. Michael Triscaro leans out a little bit, but now he's going to get back in line as well. And these guys want to go, but they just can't get very organized. Looks kind of like the NASCAR Cup Series race on Sunday from Talladega. A lot of guys wanted to go late in that race, but just could not get organized enough to get that line rolling, and it never worked its way to the front. And they're trying right now, but just not a lot of organization. Now here comes the organization. Michael Triscaro, J.R. Miller, Logan York up top. Does Range join him? He's not going to have a chance to. Here comes the 34. He's got a huge surge of momentum. He's coming back to the front up on the outside against the safer barrier.
And unlike the next gens, these cars, you can't just immediately get tanned up and have a run. They take a lot more time to generate those runs, but once you get it, they can be just as gnarly as the runs in the next gens are, as you see there. Look at this. Michael Triscaro all but clear as they cross the stripes that time. J.R. Miller trying to push team owner clear here, but he's not quite going to be able to do it. Matthew Baker still holding strong in the middle. In fact, while we have a chance, as does the 34 jump down? Yes, he will. Now in front of Christopher McCullough, the 78 of J.R. Miller, now left with just Logan York. They are separated. But going back here, I do want to hop on the onboard for Matthew Baker, as he is one of our guys carrying a driver cam here tonight. You see, even though he is leading, just how tense he is on the wheel. He knows that a simple mistake could put him in a bad spot in a hurry. So right now, Matthew Baker does continue to lead at the World Center of Racing. And leading that outside line is who I actually believe is kind of the new teammate to NBG, at least on Tuesdays. And that is Michael Triscaro, the driver out of Chagrin Falls, Ohio. Continues to lead the outside, but look at the wheel move around. All those little movements, Dawson, these cars, a lot of guys refer to them as being darty. dartier than any other series. And when you got a car like that, you're constantly making those minute wheel inputs, just trying to do anything you can to keep the car on the right course. Christopher McCullough and J.R. Miller bumping and banging range into Maines. Oh my goodness, they all save it. Maines is going to have to blend here. They're splitting 3-4 wide out back. How do they all save that one?
The luck came back around for Garrett Maines. Last week we saw him get an incident late in the race. Could have very easily ended his night right there as well, but the luck is on his side tonight, and he is able to keep that car straight. I have no idea how. He was pretty much cocked it dead to the left sideways towards the inside wall, but keeps it straight, keeps it going, and keeps it up in the lead pack. 3 wide working again. J.R. Miller, Logan York going to take another crack at it up on the outside, and unfortunately they still don't have any help. They'll get even with the first row now as Baker goes back down to the bottom. Man, they're so close together in 1 and 2. Miller and Triscaro, that's dangerous ground right there. They were awfully close to coming together. Another surge. Here comes J.R. Miller down the super stretch, who jumps out and goes with him as we head for turn number 3.
Well, it seems like the general trend is as the race goes on, each lane starts to side draft the lane below it tighter and tighter. And at a certain point, there's going to be contact. But right now, everybody's still doing a good job. Third lane's trying to hold on. They just don't have the support out there to do it. How about the job, though, that Mike Davenport's doing, currently running in second. And I'll tell you what, Dawson, I know you were broadcasting that race, but Mike Davenport, after he got the win in the Little Guys Series Championship, it seems like it lit a spark. I mean, that gave him all the confidence that he needed. If there are any questions about how talented the 55 was when it came to super speedway racing, they've been answered. And since then, the aggression's picked up, and Mike Davenport showing it right here is now. Matthew Baker will jump up. That'll give the 55 a chance to cool, and now the momentum's going to roll up top.
Yeah, and it's going to be all J.R. Miller, and man, no surprise. Ever since he won on a Tuesday night a few weeks ago, he has been one of the most aggressive drivers in the field. It's like it lit a fire under him once he got to victory lane, and he said, wow, all right, I can do this. I'm going to go see what I can and can't do. I'm going to go test the waters, and he did so right there. Third line fades, though, really quickly. As soon as it got up to the front, he was not able to get clear, and he'll have to try it again with Logan York. But nonetheless, J.R. Miller, and he has been up there almost the whole night. It feels like he's been up against the safer barrier trying to get that third line rolling. It's just not rolling right now. But the side drafting is going to allow Mike Davenport to go to the lead again in the 55 on the bottom side. He'll poke the nose out front here in 1 and 2 and onto the backstretch.
Yeah, one thing I will say, though, and this is kind of a good thing for J.R. Miller, is whenever you're committed to a certain lane and guys can see that you're willing to make moves late in the race, if they're looking for somebody to go with, they're going to go with you. And so right now, JR, Logan York, a lot of guys saying, okay, these two, they know that they want to make moves towards the end of the race, and they're making pretty good leeway with it, even with just 2 cars. So I think they'll have some friends made before this thing's all said and done. But 3 wide here off of turn 4, and I do see a lap car in the distance here. So this could get things a little bit interesting. 4 wide at Daytona. Not really something we see very often. Very doable at Talladega, but just not enough room here. And by the way, it's Jason Maines. So I don't know if that 12 car is willing to just get off the racetrack here, as Jason, is probably trying to stay on the lead lap. And here we go. The field, they are still 3 wide. Dawson, going to be a hold your breath moment. Nope, Jason's going to go to the apron.
Yeah, bailed out of there. Jason saw him coming, did not want to make any more trouble of what the front of the field is doing, so he's just going to go to the bottom, get out of the way, get out of dodge, and try to blend back up here with the back end of this lead draft. Oh, they're coming together. Michael Triscaro was really loose right there. Another dangerous moment for the front of the field, but somehow, some way, they all keep it together, but maybe not for long. Trouble. John Mullahan's around, Kenny McCullough, and the big one's going to strike in the tri-oval.
John Mullahan goes around, wrecking big up top. Multiple cars sliding through the grass. Ken McCullough Jr. now gets back into range. William Schwindenhammer looked like he was going to get through it until they slid down. This one's a mess. Well, we knew it was just a matter of time, Dawson. Those lanes kept getting tighter and tighter. The pushes, they didn't calm down either, and there's not much room for error in these Xfinity cars, and it looked like it started with a bit of an offset push from Triscaro to Matthew Baker when he was already out of shape, and then it just slowly but surely kind of snowballed from there. So here we go, but there was multiple things that really went on here. I mean, we're going to go back to the chopper view. I know that's kind of the general view that we initially had here, but again, so watch Michael Triscaro. We're going to back this up actually all the way to just about the start of turn 3, because that's really where he first gets out of shape, and then we talked about it just kind of amplifies from there. So watch the 34. He's currently first in the middle right here. See, Matthew Baker jumps up, and well, actually, he got doored there by one of his drivers. J.R. Miller. Did J.R. get a bad push here from York, or what's the deal here? Let's see. That's exactly what it is, Dawson. Logan York tries to push J.R. Miller in the corner. Talked about that's usually a no-no here, especially as the tires wear out, and that gets J.R. down to Triscaro. Triscaro saves it, and then here coming off the turn is where I think things start to get a little dicey again. This middle, they're trying to get a run, and so as Triscaro does get that run, he's going to get to the back bumper of Matthew Baker right as they're exiting the corner. That's where these cars like to unload, and gives him a little bit of an offset shot, and the right, it transitions over to the left and then swipes back to the right. That sends Matthew Baker up the track, gets both of those two into J.R. Miller. That sends the 34 down into Ken McCullough Jr. John Mullihan, that's where he gets spun around, and then as Ken tries to save it, that car gets back up the track and into the 34 and the 02 of Logan York, and then the wreck's on from there.
Yeah, this is just kind of a combination of, they're getting into each other. The J.R. Miller's getting down into the 5 and the 34. The 34 is already kind of off center. He gets offset with Baker coming off turn 4. And then there's just the slightest bit of contact between J.R. Miller and Matthew Baker, which sends Triscaro to his left. That was kind of an odd look. Not sure why Triscaro ended up getting shot to his left, but Kenny McCullough is there, and nothing he can do, nothing anybody can really do there. So they all come together, and man, it's just a melee here in the trial. I mean, cars coming in from all different places, bailing to the grass, trying to miss it. Getting hit from behind. Mark Vondell, tough break for him. He was going to miss this wreck and got hit by Tucker McClendon. Logan York, same thing. He gets into Kenny McCullough. Mark Math, kind of waits for the seas to part there in the inside of the racetrack, and luckily it does. But man, Devin Ray, Brock Westmoreland, unlucky there. A lot of guys tried to miss it and either got hit in the back or just could not get woed down at times. The track relatively got blocked.
Yeah, it certainly did. John Mullihan, you saw, actually missed that inside wall. Don't ask me how. Somehow saved it. Phenomenal save, similar to what we saw earlier from Brock Westmoreland, who saw sliding through the grass here. And you talked about Mark Math with a phenomenal job missing this. We'll go to his onboard in just a moment, as there it is. As Brock goes low, William Schwindenhammer goes high, those two involved, and so that meant the middle was really the only place that was going to miss it in that case. Tony Cox, he gets into the grass as well. And there are no fast spares here tonight, Dawson, so a lot of these cars that are banged up, I don't think it's necessarily going to end their race, but you certainly got to think it's probably going to end their shots of winning. And so we're going to have a lot of guys who maybe had cars that they felt like could go up here and win a race that are now going to be committed to just trying to push somebody else and still find a cash spot. We're going to go to the onboard view, though, here first of William Schwindenhammer. And it was kind of an odd look, too, here for the 17, as he saw the 03 and the 02 up top, linked together but stuck on the outside wall against the safer barrier. And William Schwindenhammer's checking up here, and he does a good job with that. And then he sees him stuck up there, so he goes to speed up. And just as he does, you got a car from the bottom that came back up. That was Zach Range, and a car from the top that came back down. That was Ken McCullough Jr. Just not really much to be done there. But on the flip side of that, talked about Mark Math. Watch the view here for the 199. Cuts to the middle. Wow, I cannot believe that he managed to miss that one. In the trial with two of all places. We know when they wreck at a track like Daytona, they're going to wreck big, and nicely done there by Mark Math to keep the car clean. 24 laps to go. Up front, it is Christopher McCullough, Matthew Baker on the outside, J.R. Miller back in third, Mike Davenport in fourth, Jeff Merck in fifth. Actually, Davenport and J.R. Miller switched, by the way. Third for Davenport, fourth for Miller. Jeff Merck, though, back in fifth. Rounding out row number 3 is going to be Jared Haynes, as he currently is up 5 positions from where he started. There's Mark Math, up 1 from where he started. But doesn't look like we've had anybody actually retire from the race. In fact, we've only got 1 lap down still, Dawson.
I mean, yeah, it's a product of the clean racing, and this was the case last week as well. These guys keep it clean for a long way in the race. Even that wreck right there, I mean, for the most part, there's a few guys with big damage, but a lot of guys here that kind of got away relatively unscathed, or at least were able to repair the little bit of damage they did get. So that's the benefit of these cars, the benefit of the clean racing we've had the last 2 weeks. Let's see if we can keep it up. 1 pit stop still remaining in this race here at some point in this last run with 23 laps to go. Chris McCullough to the restart zone. Green flag will go back back in the air. This restart, a whole lot cleaner than the last one, and allow the outside to get organized. Man, Jeff Merck wasted no time at all. He takes some energy away from the bottom line, jumps into the middle, and he'll be coming forward by the time they hit the super stretch.
And we're basically now at a point, I know you mentioned we still have the pit stop, but now it's basically just a stage 1 race, but this time it's for all the money and for all the points. And so everybody's going to be a lot more aggressive at this point. And do we see some strategy come into play? Do you maybe see one of these teams such as NBG try to get lined up and pit early? Or do we see everybody run this out? We'll have to find out, but as they continue to get up to speed here on the first lap, Matthew Baker jumps to the inside. He'll get a push from Christopher McCullough down into turn number 3. And still seeing Dawson, you can almost see the hesitation of certain guys that they're debating with themselves, do I push? Do I not push? And it's certainly making things tough. Christopher McCullough had a choice to make there, and he decided not quite to push Matthew Baker through the turn. We're seeing a couple guys experiment with it through the tri-oval, and in all honesty, I think you can get away with it on new tires. I think it's when the tires get really old that unless you are absolutely 100% square, you're going to see a guy get loose, potentially get out of shape, and potentially go around.
Yeah, that's one of the drawbacks of this car. As the tires get older, you have to drive it a little bit differently. You have to drive it a little more carefully. And as we get it later into this run, nobody is really taking new tires in this race. I mean, a few guys might have, but these guys at the front have not. The grip's going to continue to go down and just continue to get worse throughout the rest of the race, and it's going to come into play. You got to have a car that handles well to be able to push the best on that last lap. Heck, even the leader has to have a pretty good handling car to do what Matthew Baker
just saw. Big out back.
Means it's wrecking big.
Huge hit for Math. Oh, more going to get in it. Tony Cox, David Sheets, Tucker McClendon. I think Garrett was able to duck low and miss it. The 44 Navarro, he might have spun. And so much for the clean racing that we were just talking about as trouble strikes again early. And now, boy, this is going to make pit strategy interesting. I think they're going to potentially be good to go here if they top off and then save a little bit along the way. But before we talk about any of that, let's go see what gets this one started. Starts right around Mark Math and Garrett Maines. And I think I have a pretty good idea of how this one's going to get sparked up. And watch from the chopper view. See, does Mark Math maybe leave a little bit of a gap and Garrett tries to take it? It's going to be my first guess here. The 199 trying to follow in the draft of the car directly in front of him here. And Garrett's going to try to indeed split the middle on that 199. And Mark Math follows that draft down a little bit. At that point, though, Garrett's there. And that gets the 199, or the one around. He collects Brock Westerlund. That sends Mark Math hard into the outside safer barrier. Andrew Navarro spinning. Trevor Osmanoff, he's going to sneak by. And then as they wrecked out back. And, it's one of those things, Dawson, that I think we've talked about it before. Realistically, the move is there for Garrett Maines. He gets there. He catches him in the middle. But you got to know the guys you're around. Mark Math's still one of the newer guys to the series, and at that point, just don't know if it was really the smartest idea to try to split him in the middle. But, Garrett, like I said, the hole was there. He took it. But unfortunately, that risk versus reward there didn't work out too well, and it's going to cost a couple guys, again, a lot more damage, potentially a shot at a win here tonight, especially Mark Math. I saw the right front go all over the place. Think that car's destroyed. Along with Tony Cox, who had a great qualifying effort and a good run going. This one's maybe not quite the big one like we saw in the last wreck, but it's still a mess.
Yeah, a big mess here towards the front of the field relatively. It's going to take some heavy hitters into it, and you're right. Garrett's going for a gap. The gap is very much there, but man, I just don't know. There's so many laps to go. I understand where he's going. I understand exactly what he's looking at there, but man, it's awfully early for that, in my opinion, still. And knowing the caliber of the driver that Garrett Maines is, he was going to get back to the front, whether on the pit stop or otherwise. So, again, that one right there, I see what he's going for. It might have been a little bit avoidable, but nonetheless, I think relatively everybody got away unscathed from that one.
And I want to go to a different view here, actually, a couple different views. First one from the starter cam. He had a pretty good angle of this. And then before we go back live, I do also want to get a view here of the hit from Mark Mathis. I think he gets the worst of this one, at least compared to everybody we saw in this wreck. And watch this here. This actually gives you a good view of exactly what you were just talking about, Dawson. As Mark Math, like I said, I don't think Math is trying to leave a gap. But, as a driver, sometimes you get lazy, you get relaxed, and you're just following the car in front of you. And Garrett took advantage of it. And as you said, the hole's there. There is definitely a gap there. But when Mark tries to come back down, the gap closes up as Garrett's there at that point. And Then the wrecks on Navarro, Maines, and Brock Westman, I think for the most part just spun. It's Sheets and Math who take the brunt of this one and destroying both of those cars. And so it looks like David Sheets is in the pits. He might be calling it a night, as will Mark Math and potentially a couple others here. A lot of guys on the pits as we'll get ready for the green flag again. 19 laps to go. Jared Haynes currently in first. Jimmy Emo second. Matthew Baker third. Christopher McCullough back and forth with Jared Miller riding at your top 5. We're going to take a quick break. We will be right back for the restart. Stick with us at Daytona. Green flag is in the air. We are racing.
3 by 3.
Almost no trouble. Around goes Alex Hill.
Hard into the outside wall goes Hill. They're wrecking big time out back. We're not going to throw a caution. Finish. Who gets it in the line? Cody Nagels wins it in Talladega.
Back live at the World Center Racing Daytona International Speedway. Getting ready for close to the conclusion of race 6 here for Tuesday Night Thunder Season 4. It's going to be 17 laps to go, and now the storyline is going to change from aggression to fuel saving. Green flag back in the air. It's a good restart on the inside, not so much for the outside. Jimmy Emos could just not get that car up to speed quick enough. Christopher McCullough trying to push the 97, but I don't think they're going to stick behind him here for too long. 17 to go, Dawson. We talked about fuel. Remember, going back to that first pit sequence, we saw the last group, J.R. Miller and company, they came in 17. I believe it was 17 coming to 18. So if you're back in the pack here a little bit, saving, I think you can make it. However, if you're up front leading, I don't know if that's going to be the case.
It's going to be awfully close. I know we were talking about it a little bit coming out of the break, and it's really on the razor's edge of whether or not you can make it if you're up front. I mean, obviously you don't want to be leading a ton of laps, and that's exactly what Jared Haynes is doing right here. You'd rather be in the spot basically about where Trevor Osbornoth is, perhaps back around Michael Triscaro, where you can sit on the yellow line and just save. Lift out of the throttle, save a little bit of gas, and then when it comes time, you're good to go. You don't have to worry about fuel. You can press that gas all the way down. You can go. You don't have to worry about it anymore. It's what Osbornoth and others are trying to do right here. But the guys that aren't really able to do that right now, Jimmy Emos and Jared Haynes leading both lines.
And it's interesting because it's a cat and mouse game too, right? Of as soon as you know you're good to go, you want to go. Because if those lines start to get blocked up, it's too hard to get to the front. But again, if you go too soon, you get yourself trapped up front in the lead, you might be in trouble. Speaking of the lead right now, the 7, Jared Haynes still getting his first laps led here of the night. And just on his outside, well, I was going to say just behind him, Matthew Baker, but just on his outside there, Jimmy Emos looking to get his first couple of laps led here tonight as well. Was in some trouble, lost a lap, but through a few cautions, he's got the lucky dog, got it back, and It's good to see Jimmy Emos up here, even if it's just for a little bit. If that 67 is saving fuel or not, I'm not sure. The point is, though, I don't think these guys are going to stick with the 67 here for too long, as they're just not used to working with them, and we know how we'll call it cut neck, I guess, if you will, this sport is, Dawson, at least in terms of these guys. If they don't feel like the line they're pushing is going towards the front, they'll ditch whatever they feel like is the problem. But so far, Christopher McCullough continues to stay committed here down the super stretch.
Yeah, no surprise. He's just decided to stay committed. Doesn't want to put anybody at risk here. Doesn't want to make a move that's potentially either going to start a wreck or ruin the trust of Jimmy Emos later in the race. McCullough just wants to stay with him. Also, yeah, that was a very tense moment right there. But also, Chris is able to save a little bit of fuel riding right here. You may not think he could save very much, but he can definitely save some riding second in line. But now I think he's waited long enough. Now he'll split Emos to the middle. He, Jeff Burke, and John Mullahan are going to go right on around the 67. 67's got to hold her straight here in the middle line. He's got help coming, Garrett Maines, but does Garrett also split to the top? We'll see here on the super stretch. I'm
thinking there's a good chance Garrett probably will. Maybe not. And now this is going to force the issue a little bit. 3 wide. Garrett will actually duck low as the 67 fades back. Christopher McCullough just left his drafting partner there. Oh, man, they all ditched Jeff Merck. Well, I'm not sure what happened there, but Jeff right now is probably saying, what the heck, guys? I come up here to help you, get you a run, and everybody bails on me. But it looks like the 60 is going to find a spot to jump back down in line. Going to be 13 laps to go as they cross the stripe that time. Starting to slowly but surely continue to wind this thing down. And we talked about everybody should be good to go on fuel, Dawson, but if you're not, then what do? Do you try to push the pace, or do you go in early, break this pack up? I mean, what's the strategy call if you feel like you can't make it?
Well, it's kind of like the conundrum that the Chevys and the Fords found themselves in on Sunday afternoon. Now, granted, it didn't last long enough for us to find out as the Toyotas got into a wreck by themselves. But nonetheless, if you're a guy towards the back that can go the rest of the way on gas, you want the pace to be pushed right here. You want these guys up front that are not going to be able to make it to run out. That's going to benefit you. It's going to benefit your finishing position. If you're one of the guys up front, I don't know if I'd be pushing too hard right here. I think I'd be riding back, just keeping the lines even, keeping the pace down, able to save a little bit here, a little bit there, just to try to make it the distance. And I think that's what you're seeing, especially on the bottom. Look at how far off Matthew Baker is. Look at how far off JR Miller is. These guys might be backing the pace down just enough that they can save to get to the end, but now they start to push again. So I don't know. If I'm one of the guys that can make it, I absolutely want to push the pace here and run those guys out of gas.
Saw Jimmy Emos make some slight contact with the outside walls. He looks 3 wide there for just a moment, but he'll quickly have to fall back to 2 by 2. You see there is a bit of a second pack formed up. Actually, not just 2 packs, a couple more than that. And this is pretty much all the damaged cars that have accumulated here over the night. And so that second pack right now is being led. Actually, we'll go up here. The last man in the lead pack, I guess I should say first, is Andrew Navarro. And then the man leading that second pack is Stephen Harper. And then Devin Ray working together the best they can. Both of those cars a little bit damaged. Zach Range, remember, he got damaged in the rear earlier. And then William Schwindenhammer, Tony Cox, both of those cars damaged and working together for now as well. Ken McCullough Jr. on track, but a lap down. And Mark Math, David Sheets, looks like they have called it for the night. So back up front, Jared Haynes still leads on the bottom. Christopher McCullough up top. 78 of JR Miller pushing with John Mullahan just behind him. And that's kind of not a bad spot for Chris to be in if he can make it on fuel. Because if he gets split, JR Miller decides to go up, he'll have a teammate that he knows will stick with him there in the middle. But as it stands right now, I still think I maybe like the spot that a guy like Matthew Baker's in here, Dawson. You know, I have a feeling that Jared Haynes is not going to be good to go all the way. And once he pits, I mean, you've got to think that basically puts Matthew Baker to the lead without having to do any work.
I think it does. Now, the question will be, you know, how close is Baker on fuel? How close is Chris McCullough on fuel? How close is JR Miller on gas? You know, that's going to be the question the next several laps is, can these guys up front make it? I'm not even just looking at the leaders, the lead pushers as well, because lead pushing, if you're really pushing the pace, you really can't save a lot on these runs. Now, Baker is considerably lifting out of the gas here going into 3, so he's not moving the tempo very much here at the front, but you know, a guy like JR Miller running around that longer distance, pushing a little bit harder. Is he going to be able to make it? That'll be my question. I'm looking back towards guys like Merck, Davenport, Oswald, Garrett Maines. Those guys are thinking the catbird seat here to for sure be able to make whatever move they want when it comes down to it.
An onboard view with JR Miller, another one of our drivers carrying an onboard camera for us here tonight. You see that he's just holding a nice steady wheel, not pushing it yet. Looks very calm, cool, and collected. That's going to change before this thing's all said and done. And then got to give a shout out still to a couple of the other guys that are carrying driver cams here for us tonight. Tony Cox, you see that the suspension there is still heavily damaged, but he's out here running. Maybe open for a late caution to get himself back in this thing. And then last but certainly not least, joined up a little bit late, but for KSR, Trevor Osnoff carrying an onboard view for us as well. And he's got his hands a little bit more full on the inside, trying to hold the car down as it darts around just a little bit. But I think Trevor, you mentioned it earlier, he is another one of those guys who's in kind of that prime spot for fuel saving as they go around Ken McCullough Jr. there. That'll put him another lap down. Now 5 laps down in total as the 03 will see if maybe he can tuck in line and, who knows, potentially help a teammate at the end of this race. Still 2x2 though up front. Matthew Baker pushing Jared Haynes, and on the outside it's J.R. Miller pushing Christopher McCullough.
Still pretty good pace here down the back straightaway. These guys are running about 48-second laps, and that's not conducive to much fuel saving here at the front. That's still very, very fast on the pace, and the top line has started to fade just a little bit. I wonder if perhaps it comes down to fuel strategy or what that comes down to, but nonetheless, I don't know. Now here they come again. Here comes Chris McCullough with J.R. Miller, but I think J.R. may have just realized that he might be a little bit short on gas. I think he's starting to back the tempo up a little bit. Or maybe are more guys short on gas than we anticipate. Look how long that bottom line has gotten. We may have underestimated the fuel in these guys' tanks a little bit.
Yeah, the bigger that gap gets, the more fuel everybody's saving. And I think a good person to watch here, at least just briefly, would be Garrett Maines, because we know that he knows how to save fuel, and he did it not too long ago in PGR, actually last week, with the finish we had over there in the next gen. So we'll go to the dashboard here, watching the bottom right. That blue line, that blue arc, if you will, is supposed to give you a general idea of what the throttle time is looking like. And
pit stops.
Oh, pit stops are underway. Here we go. Who brings it down? The 7 of Jared Haynes. 67 of Jimmy Emos was already in there. William Schwindenhammer, Tony Cox, and looks like Michael Trascaro's in as well. I see Tucker McClendon. So a couple guys from this pack, not all of them though, Dawson. I still think it's close.
I don't know. Those guys pit really early. I mean, we knew Jared Haynes wasn't going to be able to make it with his fuel situation, but those others, I mean, I figured Michael Trascaro was good, running about 5th or 6th in line, and he was not. And these guys are really starting to transition low. I don't think anybody here at the front can make it. Only 3 up on the outside now, Westmoreland, Maines, and Jeff Merck. Let's see if these guys up here pit when they come off turn 4. And off turn 4, no takers, so perhaps you're right. 5 laps to go from Daytona, and now the fuel gauge may be the biggest question left on this race.
Well, maybe it's a matter of who feels like they can gamble and who can't. Michael Trascaro clearly felt like he was in a position where it wasn't worth it, hoping, I assume, that most of these guys up front run out of fuel, as was Tucker McClendon and a couple others. And if they do, could be in a catbird seat. But again, you got to remember, when you do run out of fuel, it still sputters for a little bit. And then, of course, you know, you're going almost 200 miles an hour. So even you get down, let's say, to 150, 140, you can coast for a good ways at decent speed still. So even if these guys can save enough to maybe make it out of turn 4, maybe the middle of 3 and 4, even Dawson, they still can coast to the line, and they beat out anybody that made it to the pits. It's more or less a matter of could they beat out everybody that's still out on the racetrack. So as we hit 4 laps to go right here, J.R. Miller still leads, John Mullahan in 2nd, Christopher McCullough 3rd. But we're seeing an outside line form up, and it's a couple of the aggressive guys, Jeff Mert, Garrett Maines, Brock Westmoreland. I think that everybody up here at this point, Dawson, has to feel like they're going to go on fuel.
You'd think so. My question would then be, okay, if you're going to try to risk it, if you're going to try to run it out, the question would be, when do you run out of gas? Because, yeah, you can coast all you want to. Here's the problem. If you're J.R. Miller and you run out of gas and John Mullahan behind you, he doesn't run out of gas, that is very conducive to an incident here at the front of the field, and that could take a lot of cars if you get wrecked right here at the front because you run out of gas. Even the slightest sputter drops you on their bumper and creates a bit of a stack up. We'll have to see. Coming to 3 laps to go, still no indication of coming to pit road. I think you're right. These guys may try to run it out, and they may be running on dry, running on fumes by the time they get back to the start-finish line. Merck, Maines, and Westmoreland, they've been virtually neutralized up on the top side. Mullahan's leaning into one, but no move yet.
And the one option they get in real life, which actually I kind of wish we had this in iRacing, but we don't, is that fuel reservoir switch, which when you run out of gas gives you that one extra lap of fuel when you flip the switch. But these guys don't have that. So again, when it hits 0, it's done. You're out. You're going to start sputtering, and the sputtering isn't going to last for long before it completely shuts off. We will be coming to 2 to go this next time. That will be the last lap for a caution if there were to be trouble, and I think that everybody's going to be good to go to make it to at least 1 to go, and therefore it's going to come all the way down to that last lap. Oh, hold on, though. The 2 McCullough Motorsports teammates, they're going to bail out. Christopher McCullough, John Mullahan. Chris was up leading a lot of laps. John Mullahan towards the front as well. Oh, man, Dawson, I just don't know at this point. It's anybody's guess.
I don't know. This is going to be the most tense 5 miles of some of these guys' nights so far. It's Jeff Merck and JR Miller. Can they make it to the end? How about Baker or Garrett Maines? Can these guys stretch the fuel out? Jeff Merck looking for back-to-back wins in Tuesday Night Thunder. Miller looking for his second win of the season. So is Garrett Maines. So is Matthew Baker. Everybody behind them trying to cash in for win number 1. Who's going to dive 3 wide? Does anybody look 3 wide? Into 3 and headed off of 4. Does anybody come to pit road this time by? Does the fuel make it 2.5 miles? Off turn 4, here comes JR Miller as the field sees the white flag.
He realized he wasn't going to make it. Everybody else, all bets are off. They're going to go for it. Baker's mom says should have asked if he was good on fuel on camera. Well, we're getting ready to find out the hard way. Oh, is one of them out of gas? No, it's just going 3 wide. Up top now, Jeff Berg with a big surge of momentum. He'll get clear. Garrett not going to get clear. Baker, though, still side by side. Watch for any of these cars to suddenly lose speed.
Oh, man, down the backstretch. This is the longest backstretch they're going to run all night long. Merck versus Baker, the 2 teammates. They start bouncing and banging back further back in the field. They might be 3 wide when they come off 4. Does everybody have enough gas to make it? Who's going to get the job done?
Still watching off of 4. This is where you really need whatever you got left. If he runs out in the middle, Merck is going to pile him up. But Matthew Baker, final charge, does he have enough? Merck's out. Merck is out. They're going to all wreck behind. Matthew Baker gets his second win at Tuesday Night Thunder. Well, we knew it was going to come down to fuel. It did. Merck didn't have enough. Navarro did, but he just didn't have enough time. And Matthew Baker proving that he can get the job done the aggressive way and the fuel mileage way.
Played it perfectly. I mean, what did I say? When one of those guys runs out of fuel, it's going to cause an incident because even the slightest sputter causes a wreck, and it does right there. Merck takes a bunch of them with him. And Navarro able to get to the outside. And how about Mike Davenport sneaking onto the podium, the driver for PGR? Good tear for him so far. He continues it tonight with a podium.
Absolutely, he does. Navarro brings it to a stop. Baker is going to bring it around and burn it down. We'll have to look at a replay of that finish. That was a good one for sure. But before we do that, let's look at the finishing results here on the night, as we still have a couple bringing it across the line. And I'll tell you what, he is certainly coasting right now, Dawson. So if there was any question on how close it was, he doesn't have enough to necessarily make it around for a burnout. So I don't think we're going to get to see that kind of celebration. But nonetheless, Matthew Baker is your winner here tonight. Andrew Navarro finishes in 2nd. Mike Davenport in 3rd. Trevor Osmanoff finishes back in 4th. Jeff Merck in 5th. Garrett Maines 6th. Logan York in 7th. Brock Westmoreland in 8th. Mark Vondell 9th. And Jason Maines rounding out your top 10.
JR Miller finishes 11th after he had to pit late. Chris McCullough 12th, John Mullahan 13th, Jared Haynes 14th, and Michael Triscaro 15th. Tucker McLennan in 16th, Devin Ray 17th, Zach Range 18th, Stephen Harper 19th, and Jimmy Emos in 20th. It's William Schwindenhammer finishing 21st, Tony Cox 22nd, Kenny McCullough in 23rd, Mark Matt 24th, and David Sheets rounds out the field of 25.
And so you see Matthew Baker getting ready to come to a halt here. Just does not have enough fuel to do a burnout, but he's going to be happy. He's going to be celebrating. You saw the smile at the end there. I think he was kind of thinking the same thing everybody was. They were all so close on fuel. None of them knew who was going to make it and who wasn't. But, I mean, I think at the end of the day, we saw Baker with the way he was saving and the position he was in for most of that run. He never moved. I mean, he was able to save fuel the entire run, except for that last lap when he got out in front, which is when he needed to be. And he saved every ounce he needed. So here we go. I want to go to the onboard here first for Jeff Merck, who, by the way, finished in 5th. So still a good overall finish for Jeff Merck, but talked about he ran out of fuel. Yeah, this is what it looks like from the onboard. Let's see just how short or where he did run out. Car's still under power at this point. Get off of 4, get to run, and there's the sputter. He hears it. He looks like he almost tries to get to the middle there, Dawson, like to give everybody an indication, go high, I'm out. But, I mean, when you're already in the middle lane, there's just really not much that anybody's going to be able to do. And at that point, you know, you got to give it to Jeff Merck for trying. If he has, another 100 yards of fuel, he's probably okay sputtering and still makes it without a big pileup. You get maybe 1-2 sputters before the field has caught you in terms of speed, and watch as he runs out here. You're going to see the fire out of the pipes for the 60. So he'll jump to the inside here in just a moment. There he goes. So he has to save it. There's the fire out of the pipes. Garrett ran in the back, just, obviously nothing he could do, and then they're going to start piling up from there. Garrett gets back into Jason. Brock Westerlin goes around. He gets down into Mark Von Dell, who did a phenomenal job keeping it up there. And then at that point, Jeff Merck gets back down into Oswernoth. Oswernoth able to beat him to the line, though, as there you see the finish between Mike Davenport and Andrew Navarro. All right, we are going to go get your top 3 in here for interviews. Stick with us. We'll be right back at Daytona. Back live at Daytona International Speedway. Going to start first here tonight with third place finisher Mike Davenport. Dawson Wise stands by with him.
Yeah, hey, Mike, it's the boys in the booth. You get a copy?
I got you, bud.
Well, I'm getting used to talking to you up here. Second time in 2 weeks that we got you up here for an interview. Coming off that success last Monday, you find your way through a chaotic finish. The first thing I'm going to ask you is, number one, how much gas did you have when you came across the start-finish line?
Basically, I was running out right after I came across the line. I basically coasted back to my pit box, in which I'm surprised I made it that far.
So kind of take us through it, take the viewers through it. What goes into fuel saving right there? Because we kind of questioned when we saw that group pit with 7 laps to go. Oh, man, okay, these guys up front are going to be really close. What went into saving just enough to get across the line?
It was really close. I think I was a lap and a half, maybe almost 2 laps short at that point. And it starts as soon as you come out of your pit box. You want to get back up, catch up with the pack. But as soon as you can, you're in 4th gear. You're coasting. You're maybe shutting it off, riding the clutch, and then I don't know if the guys in front of us were trying to save some fuel a little bit, or if we had some guys who weren't really pulling the pace. I wasn't really sure who was there on the front lane, on the front line after we took off there. But it felt kind of natural just to kind of run about 75% throttle there for quite a while, and ended up just barely having enough fuel to make it.
Well, you make it nonetheless, a third-place finish, and, man, what a string of success for you the past week now. You win the Little Guys Championship on Monday night last week. Now you're on the podium here in Tuesday Night Thunder. Take us through this streak of momentum for you here over the past week or so.
Well, I think I've had a lot of bad luck, especially on Tuesdays. I haven't had a very good season here. I felt like I've had some strong runs and then had some bad luck, maybe get turned, or, had some issues on pit road, and you really have to be able to put this whole thing together. So it's going back and looking at the things that you can get better at, and really focusing on those things and trying to put the whole package together. And I think tonight I was able to have really good pit stops. The strategy was there. My teammates worked really well with me. I appreciate those guys. I want to thank them. It got to a certain point where, we're up there in the lead pack. I wanted to do whatever, the guys that I see that are winning this stuff a lot, I pay a lot of attention to what they're doing. And sometimes when I don't know what I'm going to do, I just do what they're going to do. And, like you said, having the success of the Little Guy Championship last week, I think kind of gave me a little bit more confidence. I mean, I know the ability's been there. Just sometimes when you have a lot of bad luck, it's easy to get down and, sometimes wonder, like, why do I do this sometimes? But I'm addicted to it. Let's make no mistake about that. But, having that confidence, just going up there and knowing that I can run with these guys goes a long way. So it was good to have a good night.
A third-place finish for you. A good night indeed. And as we give you a chance to celebrate here for a second before we let you go, is there anybody you'd like to thank or shout out?
Yeah, I want to thank Ron Morris for putting this league on. It always is a good time, whether I have good luck or not. It's always great to race with these guys. I want to thank PGR, my PGR teammates running with me tonight. I had JR Miller and Brock Westmoreland out there. Unfortunately, Miller was a little bit short on the fuel. He was so close, and he was afraid he was going to run out of fuel in front of us, so he went ahead and pitted there at the end. But great run for him. Brock was up there. I want to thank the competitors here, and I want to thank the broadcast. You guys do a great job, and it's been a good night. Thank you.
Well, certainly a good night for you. A third place finish, a good points night, and you can leave here and celebrate it a little bit. We'll let you go do that. Thanks for talking to us. Go enjoy it. Go celebrate, and we'll talk to you soon.
Absolutely. Thank you.
All right, and now that'll bring us to your second place finisher here on the night, Andrew Navarro. Hey, Andrew, this is Austin and Dawson up in the booth. You got a copy?
Yeah.
Well, you bring home second. You had enough fuel to make it, but you just didn't quite have enough racetrack left to get to Matthew Baker. We heard how chaotic it was trying to save that much fuel for Mike Davenport, but you were in the same boat. First question is, how did you manage to save the fuel, and do you wish maybe you would have went just a little bit sooner?
No, I ran out, I think, in turn 2, so after the race. So I would have been really close if I would have gone earlier, and I don't think we would have had anyone up there yet. So I think that was the best case scenario. Baker did a really good job saving fuel, so I couldn't really do anything about that. And the bottom was all, they were neatly packed up there, and, you know, Davenport kept on pushing. I really didn't have any momentum after Jason got wrecked, so I was kind of a sitting duck, even though I did have the fuel and he stumbled. Just a difficult race with that yellow coming out at a weird time. And I almost lost the draft on the start because everybody, I guess, was saving fuel. And I guess they didn't know that there was a car that was like missing a bumper. We ended up catching back to the pack, which I think kind of used up some fuel. If not, Logan probably could have gone like a lap earlier with us to the top. And we might have been able to clear the middle lane if we had a lap earlier, but everybody made it on that top lane, and then obviously I think they ran out of fuel in the middle, and they kind of stacked up. So sucks for all the guys that were back there with me helping me save fuel. That was definitely a fun one, though.
Well, we saw fuel saving at the end, but for stage 1 there, we saw certainly a lot of aggression, even some bumping and banging there between you and Garrett Maines coming to the line. And, you know, we know how much talent you got at these super speedways. We know how important it is to, of course, get points wherever you can get them. What was kind of the mindset there coming to the stage, and how do you kind of balance out for these races, risk versus reward for the stage points versus a chance at the race win?
I'm not entirely sure. I got pushed so far out, and I guess Garrett side drafted the guy that was pushing me behind me, and they just stalled the lanes behind me, and I was like up 3 car lengths. So I was getting no help, and I looked and I was like, okay, if I jump in the middle, at least he'll have to go to the third line. And I mean, I felt like I gave him more than 3 seconds to move to the third line, because I was in the middle just sitting there. And he could have just gone around, and he just waited to the last second to pull out and just ran into the back of me. So I'm not entirely sure what happened there. That was my best course for winning the stage there. But I don't know if he just misjudged it or if he was going to push me and just gave me a bad push. I don't know. But you definitely got to play, weigh in the stage points are, so important. I didn't really get a lot last year, but I was also one of the most consistent finishers last year. And this year has not been the same. So I'm definitely trying to get some stage points, and I think I've missed a week too. So just trying to get points back that way. And I thought I had a pretty good shot at winning it. I think I ended up losing it to McCullough. But yeah.
Well, nonetheless, you still bring home a second place finish here tonight. So before we let you head out to celebrate, is there anyone you'd like to thank or shout out?
Yeah, I'd like to thank everybody on the car, you guys for broadcasting, and Ron for putting on the league.
And thank you, of course, for talking to us. We will see you out here next week.
Thank you.
All right, and now that'll bring us to your race winner here on the night. Matthew Baker, Dawson Wise stands by with him.
Yeah, hey, Baker, it's the boys in the booth. You get a copy?
What's up, bud?
Well, you get another win. You're getting pretty used to this winning on Tuesday's thing. And man, look, this one is a lot more unorthodox than we're used to. Your teammate Jeff Merck runs out of gas coming off turn 4, sputters right in front of the field, allows you to drive away and win the race. We saw you run out coming across the start-finish line not long after you got onto the cooldown lap. How close was it there for you coming off of turn number 4?
I stumbled right at the Geico zone as soon as Davenport came off my back bumper, and once Davenport got back to my bumper, he was able to get it refired somehow. I don't know. It pushed it, and it stalled out the speed, and it was just enough to get by. But me and Mark took the white flag with the same fuel. It just the difference was he was in that middle lane and I was in the bottom lane. So unfortunate. This fuel saving racing, we don't do it very often, and it's really boring to do. I don't like being trapped in that hole where I know I have to save every lap to have a shot to get up there and win it. But it worked out in our favor. Had a lot of fun racing today. Didn't get caught up in much. I know Mike got caught up in a wreck early, but Mark and I stayed up front pretty consistently and were able to get 2 top 5s out of it and take home another one. Feels pretty good.
Well, it's got to feel good. I mean, the regular season points leader coming into tonight, you're going to extend that points lead with a victory here tonight. And as you come closer to a regular season championship, what does that mean for you in the grand scheme of things as we get closer to the playoffs? What does it mean to be at the top of the point standings, to win that regular season championship, and to continue to just rack up points, rack up stage wins, and rack up victories?
Yeah, the qualifying was a lottery tonight, so it really put me back on track position. They started going 3 wide early, so I didn't have a chance at the stage there. So it was my first time not getting stage points and trying to flip it for track position. Luckily, it worked out. Mark and I were able to get to the front and lead a bunch of laps there at the back end. So that was a lot of fun. And then you had that caution where Haynes and Emos stayed out, so I was able to just ride behind Haynes until he had to pit. Since he was pretty short on fuel, and it just helped out. So it's good momentum for me. I would like to get Triscaro, and it's going to come for sure. Hopefully next week at Talladega, that'd be great for him. But if not, Atlanta, or I really want redemption in Atlanta. That was one of the races that got away from me for sure. So, but no, great pushing by Davenport there. I want to thank him, and good clean racing by Andrew too.
Yeah, a lot of good clean racing tonight. Great finish there at the end, and another victory for you, your second one on the season, one of the first multi-time winners. And so as we let you go and celebrate, before we let you do that, is there anybody you'd like to thank or shout out?
Yeah, just thanks to Coasting Thunder, MBJ Motorsports, Baker & Son Construction. Thanks to Martin Sports, PGR Intimidator Super Speedway Series on the roof of the car. Like the red and black, looks really good. Excited for this week. We're going... we got the Thursday and Friday race. We've got trucks at Daytona and then Xfinity Talladega, or trucks Talladega. Can't remember which one, but that'll be a good Friday, Saturday for us, and really excited for that. And then we got Ron's race on Saturday, that 3-man team series. That's a lot of fun. Hopefully we're going to get a broadcast on that one because that racing last week was a blast.
All right. Well, congrats on that victory here again tonight, and you're in victory lane for the second time this season. Go enjoy it. Go celebrate, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, man. And just one more thing. Just shout out to my grandmother. Hope she gets better. She just had surgery, and just prayers out to my grandmother for watching. Love her, and love Mom watching back at home.
All right, there you go. Well, we appreciate it. Thanks again to Matthew Baker for talking to us, and there you go. What a good way to win it. Gets the job done tonight. But, I mean, all things considered, Dawson, I kind of agree with Baker. The race itself was fun. The fuel saving, never too fun in terms of the racing portion, but certainly kept it exciting in terms of that guessing game side of it. So got the job done there. But, I mean, any final thoughts on what we saw tonight? Another good race, and excited to be back next week.
Yeah, another fun race. Look, this series continues to be one of the more competitive ones on a weekly basis just because of the caliber of the field and the difficulty of these cars. And again, these guys put on another heck of a show tonight. And as we go forward, I mean, that was something we haven't seen before. The series continues to provide us with that. And look, I don't mind the fuel saving. I mean, it's something we just haven't seen very much over the past several weeks. It's my favorite kind of race to call, just wondering what the strategy is going to look like, what the fuel gauge looks like. It's so much fun. Adds a whole other element to what we do. It was awesome to watch, and in the end, Matthew Baker has just enough to get across the line and become a multi-time winner this season.
Absolutely. Well, that's going to officially wrap it up here tonight. For me, Austin Green and Dawson Wise here on PGR eSports. As always, we hope you guys enjoyed. Thank you so much for tuning in. Until next time, have a good night.